The Center, with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, family, friends, enemies, and haters. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to the sister who got me into making content, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. 9/11 edition of the center. Let me see who's in the building. BB482, brother, you got ripped off. BB488, straight black pride to brother Elijah. BB482, sister Najee. BB488, straight black pride to brother Eshu Ogun. See, y'all were already having a conversation before I even came on. BB488 to real black gentleman. BB488 to sister Simone. And that's everybody I see thus far. So I have no idea what type of what's the word I'm looking for? Type of audience we're gonna have tonight. I'm not normally on tonight. Talked to Brother Cheney, he said he wouldn't be on, so I said, come on. I didn't realize it was 9/11 until I realized it was 9/11. We will be tying in 9/11 to what we have going on because it's relevant. And it's relevant because, as I get ready to get started, 9/11 was the beginning of the controlled demolition of America. It took me a long time to understand this. And it was without a doubt, it was a ritual signaling that. And so that's why we're going to start there. This is the 23rd anniversary of that historical event. And so today's discussion is, and I'll get a little bit into the debate right in the middle. Today's discussion is, can Black people in America survive the controlled demolition of this nation? Now, to fully understand what's going on, I would suggest getting the latest 2 books by Brother Irritated Genie if you don't have them. And you can get those at warrenhorizon.com. I would also suggest, which you can only get from me, getting the video to Save America rally. You can get that if you message me. If you send me an email at DCRadical_1 at protonmail.com. Then I can send that to you for that price of $25. Any lectures or any exclusive videos that I have with Brother Genie that are full lectures, like what he's been doing this summer, all of those will be that price. any of my old lectures, all of those will be that price. So they'll all be $25. Um, and I will put a listing on. I'll start putting a listing of what's available, like halfway through the shows. When I return, this week will be the last week that I'll be creating live streams. Right now it looks like till October. If something changes, I'll let you all know via various social media and whatnot. So enjoy tonight and enjoy tomorrow, because could be a while. Also, don't forget to revisit some of the things that we've talked about previously. A lot of people, I did notice a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a higher number of people checked out last Thursday's show. So with that, let me explain. Because some people are like, okay, it's 9/11. What does 9/11 mean for Black people in America? Well, like I said, 9/11, the standard story is that it was an attack on the country, which it was an attack on the country. Make no mistake. But the who and how is up for debate. I won't get into all of the minutia on that. There is a video called 9/11 Missing Links. I believe you can find it on Rumble. It will get into the minutia of the who's who of that. But the reason I want to talk about it, because like I said, that began, in my humble opinion, the downfall of this nation. Now, thank you, sister. Thank you, Sister Anita. Now, I know we have most Black people in America have what you could call a love-hate relationship with America, right? But it's like a sinking ship. If you happen to be on the ship and at the bottom of the ship, even if the ship is going in the wrong direction, you would much rather steer the ship in the right direction or plug the leak in the ship than rather be at the bottom of the ship when the water comes in. So that's basically where Black people in America are. The ship is without question sinking. The question is, are we going to fix the hole in the ship? Can the ship be fixed? Right? I mean, that's something I'm not sure that we were prepared to really analyze. And then two, who can we work with to help fix the ship? And can we get to the point where we have a hand on the steering wheel, as I carry this metaphor to its to its conclusion, to steer it in the right direction? Because I think if you ask most people in America right now, we're going in the wrong direction. First of all, if you ask most Black people, do they think they're going in the right direction? I don't know what, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what our people will say about as far as what the Black community is doing. Like, are we going in the right direction? I can't tell you what people will say. Because some people may think we're going in the right direction, which is even scarier than the alternative. But if you ask most people, and most people are thinking about it more because it's an election, it's election season, is America going in the right direction? Most people will say no. I mean, we have massive inflation. True inflation from the time that Biden came in office, when I looked it up, is over 20%. So think about that. That's 1/5. I believe I'm not gonna lie. I believe inflation is really 50%. I mean, but I don't have the documentation to say that. And of course, it depends on what goods you measure and things like that. So you can kind of pick and choose and play with those numbers, to be honest. But still, 20% in 4 years is massive. And the way they like to add it up, because here's the thing, inflation it keeps increasing. So they measure the rate of speed of it rising and say, oh, inflation is going down because it's going up 2.5% as opposed to 4.5%. But no, the prices are still going up. If the prices were coming down, that would be called deflation, right? So that's just an example of how they manipulate words and play with words and manipulate statistics and numbers to hide how bad things really are. But you live every day. You go to work, you gotta pay your bills and things like that. As a person, if you're a regular person, you're a regular working Joe. I mean, I've seen Europeans talk about they can't make ends meet, right? I mean, I just know a lot of people that's like literally fighting for their life. So we're going in the wrong direction. I'm just gonna say that. Not only are we going in the wrong direction, not only are people, fighting for their life, but the crazy part is that people who aren't Americans are getting massive amounts of all types of help and welfare and all this stuff, whatever you need to survive. I would just put it like that. And they're just coming across the border, just an army of people just marching across the border every single day. So, and that again, that's not sustainable. And we've talked about these things in different shows over the basically almost all this year, I guess, really. But I'm gonna go back to again the event that I believe was the start of all this, and we'll look at the who. So, in honor of 9/11, we're gonna go back and look at and remember 9/11, because to me, and some people could argue and say, well, you had the actual election before that with Bush and Gore. I don't know. I've never known where to put Gore. I don't know what he would have done. I don't know if he would have. I don't think he would have made the same moves that Bush did, because Bush was very much influenced by Cheney. But sometimes when people want something to happen, they have to just make sure they have someone that they can either trust or control, as opposed to someone that they're not sure about. I mean, that if you look at this upcoming election, that's really a big part of it that people don't understand. One of these people can be depended on to do exactly what, let's use a term we can use, the deep state, right, wants to be done. That's a term we can use. We can get away with that. And then the other person who is in bed with the people that he claims he wants to fight, but he doesn't know who they are, so they're standing right next to him. Everyone knows he can't be dependent to do anything, because any new information he gets, he'll act upon it in the way that he sees fit. That's just a reality situation. Hate it, love it, like him, hate him. That's his personality. Like he's been in the public eye long enough that we know that, right? We know that. So if you want to maintain control of a system, you can't have an unreliable person making major decisions within that system. You can't do it. So whichever way you have to do to remove that person from the system, that's what you do, right? And if it sounds like I'm talking in code, yes, I am. But if you've been listening to me long enough, you understand what I'm saying, right? So now let us go. Now, this is what I'm gonna do. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna play this video clip of 9/11, so we can remember what it was like. I think everybody in here is old enough to remember, but when I watched it, I was kind of I had forgot. I'm just be honest. I had forgot how traumatic it was. But so that's why I wanted to show it, because when you see how traumatic it is, you'll realize why things were able to be done subsequent to this event. So we're going to start off with that. I'm going to pause the music and load up this clip.
What the hell was that?
It sounded like a plane crash.
Hey, Beth. What is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center or the...
It's a trade center.
The World Trade Center.
Yeah. This just in, you were looking at
we have a breaking
obviously
news
very
story to tell you
disturbing
about.
live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed.
As we come on now, we have serious news of a major, a very tragic event for the United States. Incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center.
I just heard a loud boom.
I saw that actually.
You did? Was it a plane? That's what I was thinking. It was a terrorist attack.
Immediately, there's speculation or cause for concern. This is the World Trade Center that was the center of a terrorist bombing some years ago. So the questions have to be asked, was this purely an accident, or could this have been an intentional act? But either way, extensive damage was
What's this other jet doing? What's this other jet doing? Holy fuck!
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Right, oh my God, another plane has just hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. Right, God, it's right in the middle of the building.
Pick your reader up from under your seat. Stay on page 153. At the count of 3, everyone should be on page 153.
We do have some videotape of the second plane, and you can see it there.
Where? I didn't see it. Oh, whoa.
This is crazy.
We're under attack.
Going into buildings.
From our vantage point, yeah, clearly difficult to tell.
We're under attack.
What type of plane that is, but it's a horrific scene.
That's
All right, we've just been told also, Michael, sorry, the New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated, as is, I'm sure, much of Wall Street, if not all of it, as much as possible. But the New York Stock Exchange has suspended trading for the moment.
It's war.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion, and right now we're looking at an aerial view of the Pentagon.
There are reports that the Pentagon has been evacuated, and the White House is being evacuated. Clearly, you're seeing now these pictures from Washington, D.C.
All of the airports across the country have been shut down. All flights have been canceled for another 7 hours, which is about 5 o'clock Eastern time, and then we'll reignite there. We'll take a look what's going on after that. The probability of extension, as they call that, is high.
Take two. Take 2 and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
I hope I live. I hope I live.
Now, we, first of all, people lost their lives in this horrific event. And we don't want to make light of that. Also, there is the unanswered questions of building number 7, but we won't go into that. Thank you, brother. But we know about, if you know about building number 7, it wasn't hit by anything, but it did collapse. As I said, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because that event shook the foundation of America and allowed other things to subsequently take place. You remove that event from history, the things that take place afterwards don't take place, right? So, first thing I want to read quickly, while I am goodness, pardon me, I want to just read this because this is something that no one talks about. And when you bring it up, everybody basically looks at you like you're some type of nut. Okay, but let's just go to this. We're not going to add to or take away anything to this. This is from June 20th, 2002. The same ABC News that we just used to watch the debate. It's the same one, right? So let us get into the article. It says, millions saw the horrific images of the World Trade Center attacks, and those who saw them won't forget them. But a New Jersey homemaker saw something that morning that prompted an investigation into 5 young Israelis and their possible connection to Israeli intelligence. Right? Again, this is ABC News. This is not DC Radical One. Maria, who asked us not to use her last name, wonder if she's still breathing, had a view of the World Trade Center from her New Jersey apartment building. She remembers a neighbor calling her shortly after the first plane hit the towers. She grabbed her binoculars and watched the destruction unfolding in lower Manhattan. But as she watched the disaster, something else caught her eye. Now, if you if you've never been in the New York area, if you are in a certain part of Jersey, you can just look over and see New York in it. You see Manhattan, and it looks I mean, really, it's nice looking. Like it's a nice scenery because you have the water and then you have the city and all that stuff. And you just don't know how grimy. You can never tell how grimy the city actually is till you get there. Then you're like, oh my, it looks much better from a distance, especially at night when it's lit up and everything. You know, it's cool. But anyway, I digress. The men were taking. No, she said Maria saw 3 young men kneeling on the roof of a white van in a parking lot of her apartment building. They seemed to be taking a movie, Maria said. The men were taking video or photos of themselves with the World Trade Center burning in the background, she said. What struck Maria were the expressions on the men's faces. They were like happy, you know. They didn't look shocked to me. I thought it was very strange. She found the behavior so suspicious that she wrote down the license plate number of the van and called the police. Before long, the FBI was also on the scene, and a statewide bulletin was issued on the van. The plate number was traced to a van owned by a company called Urban Moving. Around 4 p.m. on September 11th, the van was spotted on a service road off of Route 3 near New Jersey's Giant Stadium. A police officer pulled the van over, finding 5 men between the ages of 22 and 27 in the vehicle. The men were taken out of the van at gunpoint and handcuffed by the police. The arresting officer said they saw a lot that aroused their suspicion about the men. One of the passengers had $42,700 in cash hidden in his sock. Another was carrying 2 foreign passports. A box cutter was found in the van. But perhaps the biggest surprise for the officers came when the 5 men identified themselves as Israeli citizens. Now hold up, let's stop right here. B40 to the ISP. $4,700 in 2002. I mean, you just don't carry that type of money around. You know what I'm saying? Like, generally, I'll put it like this. If you were a black person with that type of money, they're just going to assume you're a drug dealer. And you're just going to jail until they figure out how you got the money. Just plain and simple. You're like, there's going to be no discussion. You're just going to the station. You're being booked on whatever charges that they can make up. And then they'll take it from there. But I digress. Oh, yeah, and that box cutter, yeah, you know, you would have got some years automatically. They said, we are not your problem. According to the police report, one of the passengers told the officers they had been on the West Side Highway in Manhattan during the incident, referring to the World Trade Center attack. The driver of the van, Sivan Kurzberg, told the officers, we are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. What did he say? He said, your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem. The other passengers were his brother Paul Kurzberg, Yaron Shmuel, whatever, Oded Elner, and Umar Mamari. And that is the end. I thought it was more. That's the end of the article. Now, I have a question real quick. How many people are familiar with the dancing Israeli? Yeah, just, y'all put a 1 if you're familiar with that, with this situation. So they were investigated and they were let go. And they went back to Israel. And what happened after that, I have no idea. I haven't dug deep enough. Right? Later on, we would hear the whole Bin Laden story. And next thing you know, despite the Bin Laden thing blowing up Iraq. Right? And, we know the history from there. I don't need to recite the history. But one thing I wanted to do is I want to look at what was the condition of the country before. What was the condition of the country after, right? So let me see that I don't actually have all of my names in the proper order. Okay, we're not going there yet. Where do I want to go? I want to go here because we're talking about the controlled demolition of America. We forget where America was financially at this time. This is from the Kansas Reflector. It says, I helped balance the budget in the 90s. Here's how hard it would be. Now, we don't care how hard it would be. We just want to read part of this real quick. Kevin McCarthy reportedly promised many things to Republican hardliners en route to clinching his job as Speaker of the House, which he's no longer Speaker, so it doesn't matter. One of them was a balanced budget in 10 years. As part of that plan, Republicans are demanding substantial spending cuts and budget reforms in exchange for lifting the debt ceiling this year, putting the U.S. at risk of default. But a look at the numbers in the history shows just how difficult the budget will be. Doing so requires the federal government to generate enough income to pay for all the spending. The U.S. has managed this feat only twice in the last 60 years. Both times involved raising taxes, something Republicans are loath to do. President Lyndon B. Johnson managed to do it in 1969, and then his career was over. And President Bill Clinton created a surplus that ran from the fiscal years of 1998 to when? 2001. Stop right there. We don't think about this. Nobody talks about this. Before 9/11. Before they to Raw, Ito. Before 9/11, the United States was running government surpluses and paying down its debt. Why is that relevant? Technically, and it's kind of weird, but who does America owe? Technically, America owes the Federal Reserve, which is a private institution. And then they create bonds and they send those bonds out. And then people like China, who is allegedly at least an adversary of America, buys those bonds. So then America becomes indebted to a private institution and an adversary. But during the 90s, you were in good financial shape, right? But if you're the holders of the debt, do you want people to be in good financial shape, or a company to be in good financial shape, or a nation to be in good financial shape? No. So it was one of the ways that you can stop the train on a person doing well. If it's an individual, you can make them sick. Something shocking could happen, right? Well, what was more shocking than this? There's a book by a woman called Naomi Klein called The Shock Doctrine. And in it, she says that we'll say the elites / globalists, y'all know what I'm talking about, believe that you can achieve and get people to do certain things by shocking them with certain events, like 9/11 or Hurricane Katrina, or it can be a natural or man-made event, but you just take advantage of it to do what you want, right? So in the 90s, the back end of the 90s, Clinton and I can't remember the Republican, Newt Gingrich, they were paying down the debt. They were loosening the reins of economic or financial constraints on America. The economy was going well. People had jobs. There were no major wars. New technology was being was being spread to the people, I mean, people felt pretty good. Prices were low, you know. Like if you weren't there, it's kind of hard to imagine. In fact, you kind of forget because there's so many things that have happened since then. But if you're trying to knock out the biggest the lone superpower in the world, all of that stuff has to stop. And 9/11 stopped all of that. Next thing you know, you have 20 years of endless war and massive deficits that come with it. And the curtailment of rights with the passage of the Patriot Act. Right? Now, I'm going to bring this all around. I know I'm being slow, and y'all like, bruh, what this got to do with what's going on right now? I just want to read this real quick where they talk about the balanced budget real quick and where we were, or where America was. It says, when Clinton took office in 1993, the budget deficit the previous year was just under 5% of the gross domestic product, GDP. And the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office predicted a bleak fiscal outlook. Now, mind you, this is posted in essence 12 years of Reaganomics. After campaigning on a pledge to cut the deficit, which for a Democrat was weird, right? That was never their thing. Clinton raised taxes on the wealthy during the first year in office. He introduced higher top personal income tax brackets, raised corporate taxes, increased taxes on Social Security benefits, added 4.3 cents per gallon onto the gas tax, and eliminated a number of itemized tax deductions. On the spending side, Clinton took advantage of the peace dividend that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union to reduce defense spending by 4.3% of GDP in 1993 to 2.9% of GDP by 2000. Let's stop. Oh, wait, hold up. It says the measures helped slash the overall deficit to 1.3% of GDP by the end of Clinton's first term. That's the smallest it had been in 22 years. Now, let me say this. I'm not a fan of Bill Clinton, right? I'm not reading this article to say that Bill Clinton was some great guy or any of those things. Because that's not the point. We're just looking at the financial situation before 9/11 and after to show what a shocking event, how it has led us to this place that we are in now, right? So I remember, and where's that? I remember when they start having, this isn't the deficit clock. Let's see. Is this the clock? Here we go. I remember they had a debt clock. And the debt clock was running forward. And they were talking about, the Republicans were like, the debt. And then they had to explain to people the difference between the debt and the deficit. So the debt is the massive accumulation of what you owe over the years that's been accumulated. And the deficit was the yearly. So if you spent so many billions in 1 year and you took in less than that in tax revenue, that would be the deficit. And the yearly deficit would add to the debt. Things got so, for lack of a better word, good, that they turned off the debt clock while Clinton was in office. And I think they took the thing down. It used to be on the side of a building in Manhattan or something. Right? Now, here we are, quarter century later. The national debt is 35. Look, I don't even know if y'all can. I don't even know if my cursor goes on this thing. But look, all right, here we go. Yeah, there we go. Look, that's hundreds. That's thousands. That's millions. That's billions. This is trillions. 35 trillion 331 million 160,690,593 dollars. That's the national debt. 35 and more than 35.25 trillion dollars, which is more than America's annual GDP. At this rate, it's virtually impossible to pay this off. And yet, the government is giving out massive handouts to illegals, making sure that the debt increases. Right? Now, y'all know I've talked about before, highest, the Hebrew, it's highest, right? Yeah, it's highest. The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society as one of the, and again, I ain't make up the name, you can look it up, one of the institutions that's getting paid massive amounts of money to help import people into this country illegally. Well, I guess they're not illegally now because they act like the border don't exist. So I guess you can make an argument of whether it's legal or illegal. So just to review real quick, a massive attack occurred on the United States. And 20 years later, you've gone from paying down your debt, having surpluses in the congressional budget, to have $35 trillion of debt. And we never investigate who we actually owe. Right? Now, what else happened because of that? All right. Let's see. Is this the article? Nope. That's the financial crisis. We're going to get there. We got aid to Israel. Well, you know what? Let's see. We got that. Here we go. My bad. Let's go to Forbes. Because we never talk about this gentleman. And again, remember we talked about the 5 Israelis. And now we're going to look at what happened to the tower system. And this is, I'm not sure which year this is because it's not saying. But anyway, it says 4 of the 6 towers planned on the former Ground Zero site are now open and fully leased, including the centerpiece One World Trade Plaza. Lower Manhattan has come a long way from its darkest day. All right. Now it says, on the morning of September 11, 2001, the Brooklyn-born real estate developer Larry Silverstein was getting dressed to go to work at the World Trade Center when his wife, Clara, reminded him he had an appointment with his dermatologist. How fortunate. Now, 2 decades later, he credits that moment with saving his life. If it hadn't been for Clara's everyday concern for my well-being, I wouldn't be here today, the 90-year-old Silverstein told Forbes in early September. Just 6 weeks earlier, Silverstein and a group of minority investors had won a 99-year lease on the Twin Towers from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for $3.2 billion. 10 days after the attacks that leveled the World Trade Center towers took the lives of 2,753 innocent American lives, the lifelong New Yorker held a press conference to declare his intention to rebuild, rejecting suggestions by then Mayor Rudy Giuliani and later Michael Bloomberg to turn the entire site into a memorial or residential neighborhood. He decided the only way forward was to try to restore the area into a thriving business district. Right? There is, second from the left, Mr. Silverstein. Now, ultimately, Mr. Silverstein would get paid, I believe, about $4.9 billion in insurance, right, to make up for his loss just 6 weeks after purchasing the property. And again, he didn't come to work that day because he had a dermatology appointment. All I'm saying is that, that Mr. Silverstein is incredibly lucky. One, to not be killed, but two, to also have the proper insurance to cover a major devastating attack on our nation and on his personal property. Mr. Silverstein is one lucky guy, right? Now, what was the next thing that happened in the wake of that as we talk about the controlled demolition of America? 7 years later, says major players in the 2008 financial crisis, where are they now? We're not going to go through everybody. But it says major government players in the 2008 financial crisis included Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, and of course President George Bush. Corporate leaders during the crisis included CEOs of financial institutions such as Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, which the Lehman Brothers were, in fact, just a note of history. They owned enslaved black people, right? Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. Now, the Lehman Brothers just happened to be of the Jewish faith. And of course, if your name is Goldman and Sachs, we don't have to say anything else. The CEOs, Lloyd Blankfein, that speaks for itself, and Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase retained their positions after the crisis. Bank of America CEO Ken Lewis is one of the few corporate leaders from the crisis who no longer works in the financial industry after paying $10 million to the state of New York to settle an investigation. It's interesting because Ken Lewis probably doesn't fit in with all the rest of those people. Now, Hank Paulson was the Treasury Secretary. Now, all of these people, we have to understand, as this took place, which really would, if we've been honest, this was just a massive fraud. It was massive fraud committed on the American people, where poor people were taken advantage of, who were trying to achieve the American dream of buying a house, and they were flim-flam. And then Mr. Obama came in, and instead of Mr. Obama using the money to buy up the homes and give the homes to the people, he paid off the banks. And the banks just happened to be, for the most part, run by, I don't have to say it. Be exfoliated, Brother Tony. Right? Now, again, this increased and caused massive debt. Let me see. Is this it? Nope, that ain't it. Here we go. U.S. national debt by year. Now, we're going to look at this. Now, this is so old that the debt was only at 30 trillion at this time. And that's actually in Washington. That's K Street in Washington, D.C. Interesting. I might know where that is. It says national debt refers to outstanding financial obligations of a country. The national debt of the United States is what the federal government owes to its creditors. As of August 2024, it's over 35 trillion, as we saw. So we know all that. right? Now, I want to look because they have different things that took place that raised their debt. In 1929, when the stock market crashed, it was 17 trillion and actually hung around that same area, right, until about 1934. Social Security is implemented in 35, but it doesn't really add massively to the debt. Then you have the Great Depression. Now, we can make an argument about who started the Great Depression, but that's neither here nor there. Then you have the war. Again, defense spending goes through the roof. And you can see from 1941, where you have the shock of Pearl Harbor, or even you go 1940 to 1943, you go from 43 billion to 259 billion dollars at World War II. And I forgot, you got the Bretton Woods Agreement the year before, where you at it. In fact, so you went from, look at this, you're going from 43, 49, 72, 137 to 201 to 259. After the war, the growth, the debt slows down, and it's basically in the same place for years, for the whole 50s, right? Even with a war in Korea and a recession. Now it's interesting. You have this recession, then you have a war, then a recession ends, then you got another recession, right? But all this is going on, and you got another recession. And slowly, incrementally, the debt increases. But it's only when you get to Nixon ends the gold standard, Vietnam War ends, and then you start having massive increases again. All through the Reagan era, you have these massive increases because Reagan cut taxes. And then suddenly, you look when you come all the way down here, where things are basically stagnant and going down, right? You see all these numbers are basically the same: 97, 98, 99, 2000. Then you have the 9/11 attacks, and look at this jump from 5.8 to 6.2 to 6.7 to 7.3 to 7.9. Each year just going up and up and up and up. Then you got the banking crisis. More debt, more debt, more debt, more debt. Just going through the roof. Look at that. In 2016, in 2017, only 20 trillion. Now we're over 35 trillion. You look at it. Before COVID-19, which caused the recession, debt 22 trillion. After COVID, what we talked about? We talked about the shock doctrine. 4 trillion in debt added just because of COVID. Now, if you take all these events individually, you just think, just things that happen in the course of history. But I contend that just like I believe that during those attacks, there was a controlled demolition of buildings that were not hit, and people, as we saw in the earlier video, said that they heard explosions, right? That sound like a controlled demolition. We are seeing an explosion of the debt. We're seeing an explosion of illegal immigration. We're seeing an explosion of crime. We're going to see an explosion of other things, we've seen an explosion of homelessness. Right? We've seen an explosion of disease. I don't know how I could forget that. Just talked about COVID. Shock after shock after shock. Like body blows on America. And the question becomes, if we're intelligent, we're paying attention, can America survive? And can we survive in America? Again, I don't have the answer to this question. I'm just putting the question on the table because I haven't seen anyone else put the question on the table. Apparently, people think that this too shall pass. And as much as I desire it to pass, I don't think so. Right? But anyway, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_ONE, OTWTube at dcradical1. You can donate via Cashapp, $DC_Radical1. And you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. And again, if you would like one of the videos of the lectures and presentations that Brother Genie has done this summer, including the Save America rally and the Chopping It Up sessions from August and from July, email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com, and I'll get those out to you as soon as possible. So next, oh no, I covered the financial crisis, my bad. One thing we want to look at, because it's obvious that, U.S. has a money problem. Go to the Council of Foreign Relations, U.S. aid to Israel in 4 charts. And by the way, brother, you got ripped off. Do not let me go past 10. I have no plans to go more than 2 hours. And really, I only had plans to go an hour and a half. So we're going to go into this CFR article. It says, the United States was the first country to recognize the provisional government of Israel upon its founding in 1948. And it's possible I actually went over this article before because it sounded familiar. And it looked familiar when I picked it up. But anyway, and it's for many decades been a strong and steady supporter of the Jewish state. Israel has received hundreds of billions of dollars in U.S. foreign aid in the post-World War II era, a level of support that reflects many factors, including U.S. commitment to Israel's security and the country's shared foreign policy interests. Now let's stop right here. Why does the United States and Israel have a shared foreign policy interest? Let's look at this logically, right? The United States is in the Western Hemisphere. One of the things that the United States kind of founded itself on, but one of the first debates was, should we, and I'm saying we, the people who are citizens of the United States, I ain't saying we, right, involve ourselves in foreign conflicts at this time in Europe, where they had come from. And pretty much they came to the agreement that no, we're going to do our thing over here. And then you had the Monroe Doctrine that's focused on spreading, west, right? Manifest destiny and all that stuff. And then, like you say, no, since we're leaving those people alone over there, they are going to leave us alone over here. We're going to regulate this. This is us. You regulate that. We regulate this, right? Basically. So if you're regulating what's over here, which is, it's a lot of things over here. You got Mexico, you got Canada that you share a continent with. Then you got all of South America and all the various countries there that are doing their thing. And you're regulating that too. Then you got the Caribbean, which Britain is still kind of regulating, but you let them regulate that. Then you got Cuba that's doing their own thing, and you've been sanctioning them way longer than I've been alive. I don't even, I guess maybe since, what, 63 or something? Maybe since Kennedy was in office. Been sanctioning them. So you've been regulating them by cutting them off. Right? It's basically trying to starve them to death for 60, 70 years. So the question becomes, how do the United States and Israel share common national interests? Like, remember what the dancing Israeli said. Your problem is our problem. But how is that? Your problem is the Palestinians. When our problem wasn't the Palestinians in 1948. You can't find anyone in 1948 saying, hey, the Palestinians are a threat to America. That just what happened. In fact, if you go back to 1942, you probably couldn't even, most Americans probably couldn't find Palestine on a map. Except for the fact that they were Christians. Right? But now, their problems are ours. And what has that gotten us? Endless wars and massive debt. And to point that out, I'm going to point out a clip that I've played before, that in the wake of 9/11, one of the things that took place on a foreign policy front, and we're going to listen to former General Wesley Clark as he talks about, without actually realizing it, or maybe did realize it, how America's problems became Israel's problems. So check out this short clip.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Now, here's what's interesting about that. If you look at those 7 countries, all of those countries, BB408 7779311, all of those countries were antagonists of Israel, or strong Muslim countries, right? With the exception of Afghanistan, and we know the whole Afghanistan thing, that's where they trace bin Laden and all that, so we don't have to repeat that. So just like that, because of 9/11, America's foreign policy became intertwined with Israel's foreign policy. So you would have the destruction of Libya, which I spoke about in a previous show, led to open enslavement of black people in Libya. Right? I'm not saying things weren't happening before, but I said open enslavement, where we can see that open air markets of enslavement of black people in Libya to this day. I put the video in different lectures and everything. Because of the attack of 9/11. Right? You had what? They said they were going to attack Syria. They attacked Syria. They attacked Lebanon. Now, you want to attack Lebanon. Israel is at war with Hezbollah, which is basically, all intents and purposes, the military wing, even the unsanctioned military wing of Lebanon. And they have made northern Israel basically unlivable right now. And so forth and so on. And all of that because of 9/11. Even though, as the general stated, these other countries had nothing to do with anything that was going on. But what happened? Massive amounts of spending to military contractors took place, and massive debt was created, further weakening the economy and the economic infrastructure and putting a strain on America. Because we don't think about it, but every dollar that goes overseas, every dollar that goes to foreigners here is money that doesn't go to Americans, regardless of your race. Right? So we just saw in California that black people made such an uproar that Gavin Newsom had to kill the bill that would have given immigrants like $100,000, some astronomical number, for them to buy houses in California. Houses in California through the roof. They have massive homelessness throughout the whole state. It's crazy. So that's a whole nother aspect of this, right? Now, as we go back to this article from Council on Foreign Relations, it says the two countries, Israel and America, do not have a mutual defense pact, as the United States has with allies of Japan and fellow members of NATO. However, Israel is among the short list of major non-NATO allies and have a privileged access to the most advanced U.S. military platforms and technologies. Let's start right here. If the United States attack Israel, has no, even though we're sending massive amounts of weaponry and the most advanced technology and technological weapons that we have, they have no obligation to defend the United States from attack if we're attacked by a foreign power, because we have no treaty with them, and yet we're sending massive amounts of money over there. They say it's a special relationship. You can have a special relationship with somebody that where they benefit more than you do. You know what I'm saying? It can be real special for them, not as special for you. I'm just saying. Right? Now, this just shows how much aid the Israel receives from the U.S. And these numbers are way... First of all, hold up. Why is the United States giving money to the United Kingdom? I guess that's military aid, but that's wild. U.S. was still giving massive aid. Military, okay, the military aid is in red. All right, so yeah. But no, hold up. Wait a minute. Let's look at this. The large percentage of aid that we're sending to the United Kingdom is economic aid, not military aid. Why in the world? Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? I never knew that and can't explain it. But look at the massive amount of military aid that the United States gives to Israel. Right? What does the U.S. get for that? Except more problems. But I digress. Now, what is my next article here? Nope, we did that. All right, let's look at what's currently going on at the border. This is from Department of Homeland Security. Now, I was going to include a clip from Brother Genie, but that would not have passed the censorship test. But he has, I think I posted on Instagram, where he talks about the real reason for the forming of Department of Homeland Security. And again, he was working in the government at the time at an agency that got folded into Department of Homeland Security, because when he was working there was no Department of Homeland Security, right? Now, says today the House Committee on Homeland Security issued its latest Starling stats fact sheet outlining U.S. Customs and Border Protection September and fiscal year 2023 border encounter data. In the final month of fiscal year 2023, CBD recorded 269,735 encounters at the southwest border, marking another unprecedented milestone under Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who is not Hispanic, but is, use your emojis. This monthly number also represents an 86% increase from June 2023. 86% increase of people coming across the border. Now it says, since Biden took office, there have been 7.5 million recorded encounters nationwide of illegals, 6.2 million just at the southwest border, in addition to 1.7 million people that they know got away, right? Now, also 169 people whose name appeared on the terrorist watch list were stopped coming into the country. 18 in September alone. So that's 18 known terrorists that they stopped, which means a lot more terrorists that they don't know. They arrested 35,433 aliens who had already had criminal convictions or outstanding warrants, including basically 600 known gang members, 178 of which are MS-13. Also included, they seized 27,293 pounds of fentanyl, which is, I saw a video where a man showed how much fentanyl could kill you compared with cocaine and heroin and all that stuff. The amount was so small you could barely see it. That's all it takes to kill someone. Like somebody could just literally just take a piece and drop it in your drink and kill you. You wouldn't even know what happened. Right? Now, this is the people that they have caught, stopped, they know about, etc. But what about all the people that they haven't caught, they haven't stopped, and they don't know about? Because we know it, basically everything, when you have numbers like this, it's always the tip of the iceberg. Be before they straight Black Friday, brother Rocket. Good to see you, brother. And so this, I mean, this is a massive problem. They're saying it's shocking. They're sitting up before Congress running off these numbers. Excuse me. So just extrapolate that these are the type of people that we see coming across the border. Gang members, drug dealers. Now, they're not even talking about here in this article the child trafficking, the human trafficking for purposes of illicit activities and other things, the children that they have lost, right? Organ trafficking. So this thing is totally out of hand. And we've seen, gangs taking over buildings and whatnot. And the person that was the quote unquote border czar is running for president, which means if she becomes the president, these numbers, that all this stuff is going to go through the roof. And the new president of Mexico is definitely Klaus Schwab, New World Order type of individual, who through a massive stroke of luck became the president of Mexico in an unprecedented way. What's her name? Scheinbaum, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. The number of Jewish people in Mexico, I believe, is like 0.1% or something like that. Like it's not even 1%. Like it's incredibly small. So this woman winning election it was almost a mathematical impossibility, really. And yet here we are. So shout out to her. Now, we talked about this illegal situation. What is one of the things that's happening? Well, it says mother of migrant murder victims blast avoidable crimes at Biden-Harris border crisis hearing. It says war on our soil. And this is from today. By the way, if anybody knows the Mega Million number, help me out. Or share the wealth. I don't know. All right. So, it says 4 mothers of children lost to criminal acts by people accused of living or having entered the country illegally say it's worse since 2021 and will get even more so up to including war on American soil. I think if things continue, we're going to have a war on our soil, Patty Moran on Tuesday told Representative Dan Bishop, the Republican from North Carolina. When he asked, do you think it's worse? Do you think it can get even worse than it is now? During a Judiciary Committee hearing in the U.S. House of Representatives. The hearing, the Biden-Harris border crisis victim perspectives, well, we know the Republicans named that, brought together Moran, Tammy Nobles, Ann Fundner, and Alexis Nungary. I've never heard that name before. Mothers of victims and 4 others. This is Rachel Moran, 37, who was violated and unalived by Victor Martinez Hernandez while jogging in Hartford County, Maryland. Wow. Okay. I hadn't heard about that, but that's, Hartford County, that's not a place where you get a lot of crime. Bishop said this crisis is deadly, it's unsustainable, and it's getting worse. And it was all completely completely avoidable, excuse me. The sworn testimony came on the day of the presidential debate between Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican former President Donald J. Trump. It was also a day after CNN recounted a 2019 candidate questionnaire for the ACLU reportedly filled out by Harris, then a presidential candidate, saying that she would not detain immigrants in the country illegally and look for ways to provide gender transitioning medical procedures. Oh, gender transition medical procedure. Trying to figure out what those two things got to do with each other. But anyway, that's crazy. Both of those things are crazy, by the way. Wait a minute. Let's go back. Let me read that again. Obviously, the New York Post is not a liberal paper. Okay. It was also a day after CNN, of all people, CNN, recounted a 2019 candidate questionnaire for the ACLU, reportedly filled out by then presidential candidate Kamala Harris, saying that she would not detain illegal immigrants and would look for ways to provide gender transitioning medical procedures. Now, Mr. Trump did talk about that last night. Am I correct? You said, brother, you got ripped off. You said he didn't bring that up? I thought I heard him bring that up. Well, anyway, let us move forward. We're seeing more and more cases every day. A lot. Way too many. Now, mind you, wait a minute. This is also a problem. Noble said of the border situation. She's the mother of 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton, who in July of 2022 was also violated and killed in Aberdeen, Maryland. She was autistic. Walter Javier Martinez has been convicted and sentenced to prison and believed to be a member of MS-13. So they're just picking people from the area. They're not even, it's crazy. Morin is the mother of 38-year-old Rachel Morin, who was killed in 2023 on the Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air, Maryland. Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23, is charged, and lawmen said he entered the United States illegally. She said there's a blind eye to what's happening in this country. I was telling one of the gentlemen that I was at the border. I met some folks at the border. I saw who lives at the border. I was up in New England a week ago, and I was surprised at the amount of immigrants from the Congo and from Sudan and from South America in northern New England. That's unheard of. In Massachusetts, they spent $1.5 billion. Yeah, I don't even understand what any brothers is doing, but especially from the Congo, up in Massachusetts. The weather's bad, and the people, anyway, I digress. In February 2022, 15-year-old Weston Fundner died in Southern California from what his mother says was a fentanyl poisoning rather than an overdose. She said he tried something someone gave him, a situation she described previously as the tragic reality of open borders. Now, yesterday, he didn't have it, but last night, he was hammering the border issue. And I'm not sure if is it a thing where you got to live somewhere, or I'm not sure what's going on, but this is not how you sustain a powerful and functioning nation. You can't have a massive influx of people who do not share your values of your nation, and a large number of people who are already criminals. They were criminals where they were, right? And have them come into your country and cause all types of chaos, while at the same time you're getting ready to send the people who should be securing the border, which is your military, right? But I just don't understand how nobody's talking about the fact that we just need to send the military down to the southern border and say we close. I don't understand what the president, I guess the Congress has to do it, but the Congress should just declare, hey, we're being invaded, there's a war, and we're going to secure the border. I'm not sure how that's controversial, why that's not taking place, but it's not. Let's get back to the article. Let's see, what do we have? We have Mr. Trump at the border with Alexis Nungari and James Guevara, mother and uncle of Jocelyn Nungari, at an event near the border in August 22nd of 2024. Every year gets larger and larger. The deaths, and Fundner testified. This is on American soil. We had 300,000 people dead since 2021 under the Biden-Harris administration, and it's just growing. We expect it to be much bigger this year, and we have reports that they are underreporting right now. And I'm not surprised because it's embarrassing. That's not why they're underreporting. And she said it's 100% worse. 100% getting worse, excuse me. 3 months ago, 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari was found strangled to death in Houston. Alexis Nungari said honoring detainers by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, a sticking point for the Democratic lawmakers and some Democratic sheriffs in North Carolina, where Bishop is running for Attorney General, to help the situation. I do believe it is getting worse, she said, and it will continue to get worse if we do not use every detention center, every facility bed to detain them until their immigration court hearings to confirm and make sure for us U.S. citizens that we will be safe letting new individuals in the country because they're taking our future, our children. I'm just going to say that they just need to say it. We're closed. We're full. There's no need to bring in any more people. There's just too many people here. Got to figure out what to do with the people that's here. That's my stance. Of course, I guess that's why I'm the radical and not the moderate. So yeah. So I just want to go over that article because the strain that this is putting on the country is not even worth. It's not even being properly measured. But you got ripped off. You said, excuse me. You said Abbott could do that with the National Guard. Yeah, but he's WEF. Right. So, what is the next? I think I have one more. Let me see. Oh, okay. Now, let's just talk about our situation real quick and we'll close up. We're going to talk about our situation. Real quick. Says new documentary focus on financial health in the Black community. And says as the nation approaches another election season, concerns about the economy are top of mind. Americans are grappling with a range of financial challenges, from mounting debt to limited savings out of necessity. Historically underserved communities are finding a way to normalize conversation about economic empowerment and money management due to the racial wealth gap. According to the 2020 U.S. Census, the median net worth of Black households is only $18,430, which is the lowest amongst any race or ethnicity in America. In comparison, the median net worth of all U.S. households is about 7.6 times higher than Black net worth. Additionally, a startling statistic by the organization Prosperity Now and the Institute for Policy Studies predicts that the median wealth will fall to zero by 2053. Let's just stop right there. We have nothing. The country's collapsing. There's a massive invasion. War with either Europe or Asia or both are very real possibilities. And Mr. Trump pointed out that World War III is a very real possibility. Notice Harris, whatever. She had no reply to that. Remember Martin Luther King saying, "I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning building." Well, the building's on fire and it's imploding. And we have to find out, are we going to get water, or are we going to run out the building like the people at the beginning with the 9/11? I just wanted to paint the picture to show where we are. I have no answers for this. Just being completely honest. One thing I do know is things are going to get, either way, things are going to get worse. Depending on who the next executive is, will depend on how much worse and how fast. Because the things that are necessary to be done, the people in charge don't have the political will, because they've been paid off to not have the political will. Again, AIPAC, as we've talked about ad nauseum at this point, American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, you can look it up, is greasing the palms of virtually everyone in Congress, and the people whose palms they're not greasing, they're simply paying their opponents to remove that person from Congress, like they did Dr. Cynthia McKinney a long time ago, like they did, I believe the gentleman's name is Jamal Bowman in New York. And there was a sister that also was removed, and both of those people were Democrats. And AIPAC had them removed because they dared to mention the war in Gaza, or really the war on Gaza. It's not a war in Gaza, because she gotta have the capacity to fight back. It's like the war on black people. You know, it's not a war with black people, it's a war on black people, because we haven't had the capacity to defend ourselves and still try to the best of our ability, right? So, and if we look at it, I forgot to bring it up, but Mr. Trump was just at some type of a Jewish Republican fundraiser a couple of weeks ago. Ms. Harris was at AIPAC. I'm not sure the time frame of when she was there. And as we saw last night, they were arguing with each other about who's more pro-Israel, who's more it's the word I'm looking for, who's more hawkish. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it was surreal to see Miss Harris Imhoff trying to get to the right of Trump in regards to war, and touting receiving the blessing of Richard Cheney, who I contend is just a complete and utter psychopath. Like, receiving the blessing of Mr. Cheney, that's nothing to brag about. That shows how far to the right the so-called liberal party has become on the things that are relevant. They're only so-called liberal when it comes to degeneracy, rainbow issues. But when it comes to war and it comes to even economics, right? They're just as far to the right as the Republicans. There's no will to stop wanton war and destruction in the Democratic Party. There's no will to bring our troops from all these various assorted places and to bring them home to defend American interests here where the interests are. What people used to say back in the day, how can you be fighting for my freedoms in Iraq when I've never been there? But now they're fighting for your freedoms in Israel. And now they're fighting for your freedoms in Ukraine. And it just so happens that massive amounts of money goes over there while they're fighting for your freedoms. And it's not like they're going over there to retrieve your money, they're going over there to send you money. while people here starve and die in the streets. So the question is, as I said previously, can Black America survive the controlled demolition of this nation? Now, this was, of course, a very surface level discussion because you can only go so far and so deep into the discussion because of who you're going to implicate just by the fact that every time you look up, they're in charge of whatever you're discussing. But I think this is something as people, 2 months from now, less than 2 months from now, head to the polls, it's something to think about. People talk, this is a discussion about democracy is on the ballot and things like that. The existence of America is on the ballot, but not in the way that people think. And not in the way that the major media will allow you to say. And not in the way that even the candidates understand. Mr. Trump understands that there's something very, very wrong with America. He has not figured out what the problem is, though. Ms. Harris is going to pretend like there's not something very wrong with America because she gets to achieve something that she has been thinking of for who knows how long. And either way, since both of them have stated that for the most part, with the exception of the border, there's a lot more in common policy and politically than there isn't, to the point that Ms. Harris actually has taken some of Trump's previous policies and said that she would implement them. I have seen that. It's surreal to see. It's unbelievable. And most people don't know it because they just hear her propose something and Trump literally has to point it out and say, I came up with that. Wait a minute. And that's why they call it the political or the two-party duopoly, or two wings of the same bird, because the thought process has become so limited and no one's allowed to think outside of the box to come up with actual solutions to the problem of the nation. Because if you do that, you have to come and find out the root of the problem. And that's something that most people can't. That's information they can't process. So, brothers and sisters, with that, unless anyone has questions, I guess I will take questions as I wait for the questions to come up. If anybody want to ask about last night, the debate or anything like that, I will give a few minutes for that. Again, you can email me dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_one, at OTWTube at dcradical1. OTWTube is a Black-owned free speech platform, and you can donate via the Cashapp at $DC Radical 1. Be before they straight Black pride to brother Desaline. And I will say I do plan to come on tomorrow, and also very shortly, Brother Genie will be announcing his pre-tour, where he's going to be going around the country giving vital information to our people. And I'll let you all know. But I think he's actually going to send it out via email, maybe this week, with that information. And then when I get that, I will put it up. Brother Real Black Gentleman said, what I think about stances on abortion from Trump and Harris. I am more inclined to agree with Mr. Trump's stance on abortion. He did specify that in cases of violation, he advocates. I can't see forcing a woman to have a child that's birthed by violation, even though I'm generally against abortion. We've lost, and the reason why I'm against this is because we've lost, we as in black people have lost over 20 million people to abortion since abortion was legalized. And it was legalized based on a lie, and no one ever talks about that part. So realistically, now that we know it was a lie, the whole case should be thrown out in reverse and should be relitigated based on the facts of the case or a different case. Right? But I think that, even though I'm not a states' rights person, because that can get real, that's a real slippery slope. Black people, we've been through the states' rights thing. I think that returning that to the states is really, it's a compromise. I'm not big on having a national law, but right now, because of being completely honest, because the state of people and because the state of relations between men and women, and because of the general lasciviousness of the nation, realistically, having people having unfettered access to abortion is not beneficial to anyone right now. Having limitations on that, just because of what's going on and what people are doing, I think is necessary. And of course, like I said, we've lost 20 million people. Like, we only have 60 million people here. We could conceivably been up to 100 million people if you just eliminate abortion. Would there still have been abortions? Absolutely. But the number would have been greatly curtailed. And brother, you got ripped off mentioned Mile for 21. He has a link for it. It's definitely worth looking at. I just looked at it a few months ago again. It's I've watched it like 5 times, but it's still kind of shocking. Brother Desaline says, did you see the 9/11 photos? No, I had a video. We played a video of 9/11 at the beginning, but I'm not sure which photos you're talking about, brother. So no. So he says the Dems have Schumer on the side and the Republicans have Bloomberg on their side. Well, yeah, and they both got feedback, putting a battery in their back. So yeah. So if there are any other questions before we get out of here, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired. And I got to figure out what I'm talking about tomorrow, because that will be, tentatively speaking, the last show for the month. I will put up some clips and some other content, but these two will be the last live streams. Something may change Sunday, but I won't know till like Friday. And so if y'all get a notification, then something changed. So again, before I close out, follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one, on OTW2 at DC_Radical1. And you can donate via Cash App if you find this type of programming of value. $DC_Radical1. And you can email me at dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. Just for general questions, or to let me know about events or things that are happening in your area, or if you would like to order the Save America Rally video by Brother Irritated Genie, or one of the Chopping It Up videos by Brother Irritated Genie, or one of the lectures by myself, like the 2019 Dr. Collins lecture or the 2022 Dr. Francis Cress Wilson lecture. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening and watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Help us creep over the full monetization mark. We kind of can see it in the distance, but we're not there yet. And with that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DCRadical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.